All right, we are live with Bobby Gutierrez. He is one of our endorsed candidates for Bryan City Council. Bobby, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the endorsement, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Bobby, you are a man about town. You have consulted and worked on a ton of political campaigns, many of them local. What is driving your passion to get involved in local politics? And, asterisk, what is one of your favorite stories from volunteering on the campaigns?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at all these things here, try to qualify one of them. The main thing is, when I first got involved, or when I first decided to get involved, it was about just, trying to get. We were trying to open Bryan up. We're trying to bring businesses into Bryan, and we had a group of guys that were just like trying, how do we get this thing rolling? How do we support the people who are there? How do we make sure that we get the right candidates that have the same, I don't want to say think like us, but like-minded thinkers, and then how do we get them in the office? And if we can get them to run, then we got to get them in the office, and they've got to win. We need to raise money. I've always been the guy who kind of raises the money and puts the stuff back in the back. It the passion is, I guess, what started it is when I actually tried to do rebuilding my tire store. I moved to town. I bought the tire store from my parents. We've been there for 50 years. I mean, 49 years now, going on 50 years. And 20 years ago, I decided I was going to redo it. We were going to build a state-of-the-art facility. It's about 15,000 square feet, 2 stories, have the warehouse up on top, have all the building, the manufacturing and the automotive stuff on the bottom, and then with a really nice showroom. You would think it would have been welcome with open arms, and it wasn't. So that goes to one of the things about the pro property rights. I hit every single roadblock you could possibly think of, just because some of the stuff that my dad had before, and coming working from the Basses and doing economic development with the Bass brothers, it was a whole different thing. When I was just trying to do my little thing, I worked on $100 million, $500 million projects, and to do a little tire store was harder than any of those other ones. And at that time, I was fairly connected. And I couldn't imagine, if I couldn't get something like that done, what people who had no connections were going to get done, or could get done, or were feeling. I've always been very approachable. You say man about town, but I mean, that tire store has served generations of people, and people come in all the time. I mean, we've had at one time, just by coincidence, we had the senator, we had the congressman, we had this one mayor, second mayor, and some city council at one time. And through the chamber, I had a friend of mine tell me, you need to go to Bobby's place, because that's kind of where everything happens. And it was literally just by chance. He walks in, and he couldn't believe it. Of course, I couldn't believe it either. It was literally by chance. But it is one of those things that, I'm very approachable, and I enjoy kind of giving back and helping people and navigate through the process. I mean, people will call me up with, you wouldn't believe the questions I get. I should have some kind of consulting company that covers from A to Z of everything, because I get from, I need a painter to I need somebody who could, pull weeds, and then I need help with the planning deal, or whatever that may be. But that's where the passion is. Some of the funniest stories are probably some of the scariest stories that we've had when we're running really tight races. And I remember we were running a mayoral race, and actually for my treasurer, for Jason Bansky. And we worked hard. I mean, it was a very, very hard working campaign. And if you know Jason, it was always one of those things that, we're always behind, we're always behind, we're always behind. And we always run like we're behind. Even in my race, I'm running like I'm on fire right now. But it is he called me up one day, and he's like, Bobby, early voting's over, and we're behind. Well, there's no way he could have known that, because we hadn't released the numbers of early voting. But, he said, we just did a poll, and we're behind about 5%, 4%. So immediately I get on my cell phone, and which is like, I think another service, I get like a 411. Everybody calls me for everybody's number. But I just start going down, and I'm just doing group text after group text after group text. We're behind. We're going to lose. Everybody call their friends. Everybody go over there. And I don't know how many thousands of people that went to and got forwarded to from there, but it literally, people were out. Then they went from there to Facebook, and from Facebook, we drove a lot of people to the polls, which I've always had really good time of shaming people to go vote. You know, I'll go out and tag them and say, we know we haven't got your vote in. You know, we had the second when you vote, it refreshes and we know that you voted. So please, you know, go vote. But that same night that we did that, we had gone, it was first Friday before the Tuesday vote, and we didn't know what was going on, but our opponent happened to be at Uncorked. And I'm there and they are partying like they've already won. And I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I take a few pictures, send it back to Jason. Now Jason's freaking out because he thinks maybe they did really do a poll, and we were really losing. So that whole weekend we all block walked and we did the same thing. We called and everything else. But it's always one of those things that I feel like at that particular day, I must have pestered like one of those cold call guys for insurance or auto, your warranty work thing. I made everybody mad that weekend by that. But we won by a long shot, and I was really upset that Jason had punked me.
Well, and with that experience too, I mean, you've definitely donated a lot of your time, which we all know is a treasure in a lot of ways. We only have so many hours in a day, but you've served on the Bryan Planning and Zoning Commission for 12 years. It's, you've got the, longest time served of anyone currently on the commission, which that, gives a lot of experience and obviously background. What initially drove you to join P&Z, and what's kept your interest alive for 12 years? And highlight briefly maybe a couple of the ways that experience has changed your perspective on realtor issues such as private property rights.
Well, that's a good question. What drove me was the actual trying to get my project done and realizing that if I couldn't get mine done with my limited experience, but with the amount of the people that I knew and how to get stuff done, I couldn't imagine what it was before. Bryan was run, and much like maybe like College Station is run today. You get in the plan of zone and it's immediate. It was a no, and it was run almost like a kingdom. You had to go in, you had to kiss the ring, you had to know somebody in some kind of form or fashion, and it's just not the way you do business. My business is run by customer service. My business is run by, repeat business, and to make sure, you only have one chance to get it right. You only have one chance to keep your customers there. You only have one chance to make them happy. With this, it was a monopoly. They had to come over. And so it was more of a power from staff level rather than power from the people and from the commission. When we got on there, we decided we wanted to change that, and we wanted to open Bryan up. We wanted to find ways to say yes. Let's just don't say no to everything, because we were already dying. 15 years ago, think about where Bryan was. We were already dying, and we were headed down that pathway, and everything has moved to the south. Now we're trying to figure out, okay, we got empty buildings. We have all this stuff. We've got these things that we've got to get done. How do we open them up? How do we get people over here? Our prices are going to be better, because they're older, they're paid for, and stuff like that. So let's figure out a way to say yes, rather than, a guy goes in and buys a $100,000 building through no fault of his own, just purely doesn't know. And he wanted to open up just a bike shop. Well, it comes to find out it's not zoned for a bike shop. Or come to find out that it's, he's going to have to do that. But to open a bike shop there, he's going to have to redo his parking lot. He's going to have to add all the landscaping. He has to do all this stuff that's going to cost him now. That $100,000 building is another $100,000 into infrastructure costs that he's going to have to pay for. And he only had a certain amount of money to buy the building and then for his inventory and to start his business, not knowing that he had to do that. Now, that's not necessarily the city's fault, but when you have empty buildings all over town, you certainly should use that to parlay those into figuring out a way to do it. So we came up with a kind of okay, we're going to give you 1, 2, 3 year kind of thing. Let's see, you might not even be in business for a year, but at least we'll have something there opened up. It's going to, they'll do some repairs to the building. You have some taxable value. You have, sales tax and everything else. So we started finding out ways to tell them yes. And we changed it. It's like, I don't want to hear you. I don't want people to call me up, tell them they said no, go to P&Z. I want you to figure out a way to say yes to them. How are we going to make this thing work? And how do we get these things opened up? Staff fought that very hard, because it took the power out of them. And I called them up one day and I said, look, I wanted a list of everybody who comes in and asks for a permit. Well, they were floored. And I said, well, what do you want that for? So because I want to call up and make some calls. I'm not going to call the 100, but I'll pick 10 of them and I'll just say, look, I'm going to call 10. How's your experience? Did you turn down? Did you say yes? Did you say no? You know, what did they do? And if they said no, did they give you an opportunity to say, you know, we can present that to P&Z? Because what we were hearing is they're going, well, you can present it to P&Z, but P&Z does everything we tell them to do. They take our recommendations for everything, which is not true, because we moved it from political appointments to business appointments. You know, these are, you know, have people of substance in there. I asked them for that because I wanted to know exactly what that customer service experience was for them and how they were handled, and did they get scared off, because we were seeing the same people there every time. The same people who knew how to work the system, the same builders, the same, you know, developers, the same everything else that knew how to work it. They were there. There was never any new people there. And to me, that sent up a red flag. It's like, you know, they don't know. Why are they calling me personally? And why are they going through there? So that was a red flag. We've got that changed. The next thing we kind of noticed on there that was a big thing, a big push, and you know, you said about the volunteer times. I'm on pretty much every board there is that has anything to do with economic development or building or education or stuff like that. What I started noticing is that none of the boards knew what the other boards were doing. You know, we were doing things on P&Z that would negatively affect the stuff that we were doing on BBC or on BVDC, you know, or on, you know, BISD, or, you know, wherever it is. Nobody was talking. We were doing the right things with the information we had, but nobody had a common vision of where we're going. Now, I put a deal together. I said, okay, council, you guys drive the ship. You guys are the guys who pushed us. You're the guys that appointed us. You need to give us what your vision is. And we're talking long-term visions, 50 years, 100-year visions, because that's, you've got to get a direction of where we want to go. So we did the Blueprint 4040, the comprehensive plan. That was going to be our comprehensive plan, and it kind of gave us where we were going, gave us kind of the pathway, the map of how we're going to get there. And then we needed council to let us know how specifically how you wanted us to get there, because we're the guys that are making those policy changes. P&Z is very much, probably there's more power in P&Z than there is in any other commission, simply because we're policy making. We bring those recommendations to the council, but we have to vet them and go look through them and everything else. And then, you know, they normally it's stamped because it takes the heat off of them. It's stamped, and then they go from there. Or they'll kick them back to us and tell us to redo them again and check some other stuff, and they'll bring back. But we start that discussion, and they make those decisions whether they were good or not. So we have to have good, sound people on P&Z, because they are making those policy changes that affect you, the realtors, the developers, everybody involved in actually investing in our community. Now, the realtors and the developers, to me, are the biggest investors in our community that we have. That's what creates those new neighborhoods. That's what creates what we have through BISD and everything else. And everybody has to be working together. So we started doing joint meetings twice a year. P&Z and council would do joint meetings twice a year to, you know, update and kind of lower, so we all know where we're going. Those were the most productive meetings that we had. So then we decided, you know, Bryan Business Council, because they're huge drivers, we've got to make sure they're on the same path too. So we did, you know, council with BBC twice a year. Then we started deciding, because I was on both of those, that, hey, we're doing stuff that are affecting each other. So P&Z and BBC meet twice a year. So now everybody's on the same page. Everybody's working towards one common goal. And if somebody gets off board or starts, instead of going, you know, like this, we're doing this every single time we turn around. We're just making that goal a little bit tighter. And so we've started doing that to pretty much all the boards. And that's probably, you know, one of the biggest, I guess, accomplishment we've done, where we've kind of pushed our envelope, where you can make a 25-year goal in 5 years. And literally that's what we've done with our Midtown plan and with downtown Bryan. We've been able to squash those and move those a whole lot better. As far as property rights, you know, if you go back and look at some of the more of our contentious stuff that we've done on planning and zoning, you'll hear me, you know, we have the ones that they call the NIMBYs, not in my backyard. And we're dealing with one right now. I mean, and they're all, you know, these are their biggest investments. The people's biggest investments is probably the most emotional investment that they have. So I get that. But when you buy on the edge of a community and you're looking out into the next door's, you know, 100-acre pasture, and you're going, that's the decision you bought that house. Well, you better understand that either you need to buy that 100 acres next to you, because that's not what you're going to look at for the rest of your life, or you need to get your group together to buy a parkland or some kind of buffer or something like that. But you can't rely on, the planning and zoning to go, okay, we want you to have that thing forever. I mean, we get these, and I don't want to say they're crazy, because it's not crazy, because I would probably be the same thing. It's, you get passionate arguments for why we should not develop, why we should not put another subdivision, because my kids have been playing in that, empty field for the last 15 years, and the birds and the this and the animals and everything else come up, and everything that you can possibly think of, which I ranch, so I was out in the wilderness yesterday, but that's a choice of mine, that when I want to get away, I have to go, because I look at my neighbor's house from my house here. But you'll hear me say, well, I understand that, and I understand that you've been trespassing on this guy's land for the last 15 years, so you probably need to tell him thank you for not prosecuting you as he's rebuilding, or get together, because I think everything is for sale. Everything has a price, and maybe if it's that important for you guys, maybe collectively as a neighborhood, y'all get together, buy a buffer zone for him. I'm sure he would sell you part of it, and you can still enjoy that kind of thing. Otherwise, you really don't have anything to say so about it. It's his property. Now, the flip side of that is you can't just let anything go in anywhere, because they have property rights also. So that's why we have the zoning that we have. And, we've worked on some zoning issues that, because of our blueprint, because of our plan, because we probably need to do some updated zoning as our town keeps growing. But you have to look at what's fair. You have to look at what's consistent. You have to make sure that whatever's going in, it really can't just be anything. You've got to be able to have some buffers between them. So it's a slippery slope, but it's been fun. And being on there that long, I took Chuck Connolly's 2.5-year unexpired term. So I had 2.5 years of his unexpired term. Then I got appointed for a 3-year term, and then a second 3-year term. And one of the problems we had is we were making these political appointments, and, people that were, how that goes, Hayden. It's like you get $50,000, and what commission you want to be on, what board you want to be on, what this one. I'm talking on the state level, and you get there as favors. Well, we started pulling this stuff back together, because I was on all these boards, and the same thing. We started taking a look at everything holistically and going, okay, that was not a very good pick. That guy doesn't offer really anything to it, or that lady doesn't offer anything to it. We need to have subject matter experts in those fields. And I started going, look, I don't care who you appoint, but this is what I need for my commission right now. I need a realtor. On planning and zoning specifically, it's planning and zoning and BBC. Those are two of the ones, probably the two premier boards that drive a lot. And I would suggest that you guys get really involved with BBC as well. BBC is probably my favorite board of any board. It's the one I spend the least amount of time on. We go in for 1 hour once a month. More gets done in 1 hour than any other hour that I spend throughout the month. And then we have some subcommittee meetings. It is a very prestigious board of leaders, driven by one common goal: is bringing economic development, bringing business, bringing rooftops, bringing education awareness, all the things that we love about Bryan. That's what that thing does. And they have money to do stuff with that can work independently from the council and from the city. And it's just a good, fast moving board that's very effective.
Well, it sounds to me like you bring an incredible amount of wisdom with you in the council. And as an endorsed candidate, we wish you all the luck. We have run up against time, and we got to let you go. But we thank you for your time this morning, and we wish you the best of luck on November 3rd.
Well, thank you very much, and I appreciate you guys. I appreciate your endorsements, and my phone's always on, my door's always open. Just give me a holler at any time. All right, guys. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much, Bobby.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.